I'm actually surprised. So most women tennis figures today have come out defending Serena. Why are you not one of them?
I definitely feel sympathy for her because I was actually commentating on the match and I witnessed the whole thing unfolding.
Serena didn't swear, didn't use bad language. The reference to the thief was he took a game away from her. Can you remember any circumstance where a male player has had a game taken away in similar... Because that seems to be the point at which this has gone further than he would have done with a man.
I think that's oversimplifying what the situation was. What happened, in my opinion, perhaps he might have approached it slightly differently. There are circumstances where an umpire can take discretion and they could actually... He might have been able to let her sit down at the change of ends and given her what's called a soft warning, where you just chat to her gently at the side of the court and say, listen, I'm aware your coach is coaching you, so if it happens again, I'll give you a code violation. And unfortunately, he went for the straight, strict, I'm going to give you a violation straight away. And bear in mind, we'd already had the controversy with Nick Kyrgios, who'd been accused of not trying, and the umpire had come down off the chair and tried to sort of coax him back into the match and then was accused of, giving him a pep talk, as it were. And then we'd had also the player that had taken her top off and changed it from being back to front. So there was all this controversy around umpires about what they were doing on the court. And I believe that Carlos Ramos actually decided, right, I better be just strict about this. But it was just one of those circumstances that you have to look at the set of circumstances. What she did... Whatever she did subsequently from the code violation for the coaching, which her coach admitted he was doing...
Annabel, he admitted that he was coaching it. She said... When she looked over, she thought he was giving her the thumbs up.
She thought it was the thumbs up.
And she categorically...
And I think I believe her.
Right, she emphatically denied...
I believe that she might well have seen that.
Right, so she thinks she's getting a thumbs up from her coach, right? She is incensed that she's effectively been punished for cheating.
Yes.
She says she'd rather lose.
And she said, I've never cheated. No, I understand that. So the whole thing starts from a misunderstanding, right? So if you're Serena Williams, there's this burning sense of injustice that's building up. And I don't particularly like them all ranting and raving. However, I used to enjoy it when Connors and McEnroe went at each other. I like passion in sport. I like players that give everything and let it go sometimes. You can't have just squeaky clean angels, can you?
No, you can't. And I totally get it. She could have chosen to just accept it and think, OK, well, I shouldn't have done that, so that's that. But she, unfortunately, and I understand why she lost her composure, she went ballistic. I mean, Rafa Nadal, I've watched him go up to umpires, sort of make his point, be very furious about it, but then turn round, walk back to the line and carry on playing. But she took it to the next level. So then, of course, you can understand she was so angry, and I do understand why she was so angry, but she couldn't control her emotions because she was being beaten by this young Japanese 20-year-old who was playing the match of her life.
And have you seen male players lose, be penalised a game for that behaviour?
I remember watching Nick Kyrgios... He's been penalised for not trying and fined at the end of matches.
Harriet, Billie Jean King tweeted, when a woman is emotional, she's, in quotes, hysterical, and she's penalised for it. When a man does the same, he's outspoken and there are no repercussions. Thank you, Serena Williams, for calling out this double standard. Do you think that her behaviour was considered unwomanly, unladylike, and that's why she got the harsher penalty?
Absolutely. I mean, we actually just saw Annabel say that there. She said she went ballistic. And Rafa Nadal he was just arguing. It's that escalation of words that we use to describe the same situation that then results in a situation where we can say, well, she was being much more aggressive, a word we love to use about women. She's being much more aggressive than a man, therefore she deserved it. We expect women to behave in a certain way, and honestly, I think it's not just sexism here. We expect black women particularly to behave in a certain way, and when they don't, we penalise them much more harshly.
Yeah, I mean, I watched the whole thing, because you've got to get these things into the right context. I went and watched it all back. And Serena Williams was incensed at being called a cheat. Yeah. That's really what this was all about. And even though her coach said, I was giving her a bit of coaching, he was just saying move up to the net. I mean, it's hardly like, she's Serena Williams. Probably
Why
knows how to do
isn't
that.
the coach penalised? if she doesn't accept it as
Well,
coaching...
well, also, why do they even have this stupid rule? In basketball, the coaches are on the court coaching the entire match.
In football, they're screaming from the sidelines.
In women's tennis, you can coach apart from in Grand Slams, and so one of the calls now is for actually that rule to be
I think it's a stupid
sorted
rule.
out so it goes across the whole of tennis.
The idea that Serena Williams' entire tennis career depends on her coach going...
And
Yeah.
also the fact that we know that men are coached the whole time. You know, all the coaches will happily admit it's something they all do. They sit
all
up there
do.
and they're like, come on,
Yeah.
you could do
They
this.
all
And
do.
she's wound up by that.
She is, and that's part of what makes her a great player.
Right.
You know, it's part of what makes her amazing is this passion and this fire that she brings to every single match.
And not just
And
a
they're not
great player,
penalising
she's the
for it.
best tennis
Greatest of all
player
time.
She's the GOAT.
there's ever been, probably.
absolutely.
Of either, given the dominance in the women's sport, probably there's ever been in any sport. All right, you could argue.
Absolutely.
So I got it. I got why she was incensed. I thought this was a job's worth umpire,
Yep.
a guy who was just niggling away, never had that sort of private chat to say, let's cool things.
I don't think he's even a job's worth.
She said afterwards, didn't she, that although it hadn't worked out for her, she hoped that it had made other people aware. And I hope that
did.
other umpires, you know, realise that they might be looking
sad-
at
the
women
sad
through a
truth.
double standards filter.
That's such a part of Serena Williams' whole career is she's had to fight everything and then say, I'm doing this for other people so they don't have to.
Yes.
And how sad is that? That not only does she have to be the greatest tennis player of all time, she also has to change the rules for every woman that comes behind
The
her.
final word to Annabel. The sad thing about this, Annabel, I think, was that this poor young Japanese player who had just had the greatest game of her life.
I mean, I was there and it was a very hostile, very angry situation there. In fact, a lot of the crowd members actually probably couldn't hear all of that dialogue that we could have heard on the television because they didn't know what was going on between the umpire and Serena. And it was just a sad situation. But Serena, to give her due, she did salvage the situation. She did a fantastic speech to say, let's just stop the booing here, let's just enjoy this moment and let's give her her moment of glory. But I will also say that having sat and listened to some of that debate while trying to re-establish the line here, you know, you are all sort of throwing this poor umpire to the lions here. He was doing his job, and I had the benefit of sitting next to this guy on a plane journey back from Australia once. For 24 hours, I sat next to Carlos Ramos, and on the plane was Rafael Nadal and his uncle Tony, who was his coach. And midway through this flight back from Australia, Uncle Tony decided to get up in the aisle of the plane and rant at Carlos Ramos about the amount of times he penalises Rafael Nadal. And they had a sort of a really big, heated discussion. When he came back to sit next to me, he said, I have to cope with it all the time because they don't like that I sort of play it tough because I won't accept bad behaviour or I won't accept, you know, things that are not by the rule book. He is doing his job. And I've sat here listening to all of you saying the guy didn't do his job and he... What are you trying to say? That he shouldn't do his job?
He's doing his job,
But you're saying he's doing his job badly to a woman. I'm saying he would do that job. Whether if Rafael Nadal spoke to him like that,
Annabel,
he would do that job to him.
Let me be very precise what I'm calling him. I'm calling him a job's worth. He is like the parking attendant. He's like the parking meter attendant who comes on and puts a ticket on an ambulance when it's on a double yellow line for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
He's that guy.
You don't want to defend him.
Technically, it's within the rules.
I agree with you.
OK. Annabel...
Yes.
He's a job's worth.
OK.
And
Annabel Croft,
actually,
thank you very much indeed.
the right thing to do in that moment with a champion of Serena's stature, when she was clearly incensed by what she believed was a false charge of cheating, would have been to have had a quiet word with her and let common sense rule his stupid little rule book. And I just think that that's where he failed everybody.
I agree with you.
Thank you, Annabel.